The latest in Kenya is that Kikuyu elders and Kalenjin elders have come out, and told the government in its face, especially President Uhuru Kenyatta, that he has betrayed Deputy President William Ruto. And they're saying, that although he's not come out and said anything, is carrying out this betrayal through proxies. On today's show, we are going to analyze very thoroughly this latest development. And then, after that, we'll of course dive into an update on the global crisis, where there is a lot happening. In fact, most people are getting overwhelmed at the drama that is unfolding. I'll break it down all for you. But apart from the drama, there is something else. Most people have refused to see that actually what we are doing around the world today is redefining immunology and virology. People have not yet seen that what has happened is that we have created brand new rules and procedures that have never been done before, which means they have never been tested by the greatest test of them all, the test of time. And I'm beginning to suspect that some of these very intelligent people who are ignoring something that should be so obvious are actually doing it deliberately. Ama wamerogwa. It is very interesting how people think, and I'm very worried that we may have some decision makers, very important people, very powerful people in government, who may be thinking in the same way. Let me just give you a quick example. I've been talking about looming hunger a lot on this channel. So the other day, on our Telegram chat room, somebody said, Chris doesn't know what he's talking about. What hunger? In Kenya, we are not on total lockdown. People can go outside the curfew hours, from 5 in the morning to 7 p.m. Therefore, they can go out and look for food, and come back. And so this thing Chris is talking about, at the hunger, there's nothing like that. It won't happen. Now, we all know about the case that is being talked a lot about in Kenya. The very sad case where a mother, somewhere in Kwale or Mombasa, had to put a stone in their sufuria and start boiling it so that the children can believe there's actually food cooking, and then fall asleep, hungry, on an empty stomach. But you need to know that is the publicized case. How many other cases do you think there are of people going to bed hungry? And even worse, little children going to bed without eating the whole day. I think we have a disease in Kenya where people don't want to think about others. If their fridge is full, they believe that everybody else should be able to eat. If they can go out and look for food, let them go out and look for food. This reminds me of something that I heard a rich, spoiled kid say decades ago. They said poor people are stupid, and people who sleep hungry are even more stupid. And that comment really hurt me. It still hurts me decades later. Because this is somebody who was brought up in a privileged home. He went to school. He was educated. He was given all the opportunities. But a vast majority of Kenyans have never had access to these opportunities. So that they can rush to town and do a deal and get food to eat. Anyway, I'm just praying that there's nobody in a decision-making capacity in the government of Kenya who thinks like these spoilt brat. Although I have a feeling there is. Anyway, let us go immediately and start with politics. Now, this story of the deputy president being betrayed is a very old story. We have heard it so many times before. So what is different this time? I mean, even Kalenjin elders have been quoted in the past saying exactly the same thing. Well, I'll tell you what made people stop in their tracks at the sight of this headline. It was the Kikuyu elders part. What do you mean, Chris? Kikuyu elders are saying Uhuru betrayed Ruto? Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. But relax, let me explain. Now, first of all, it makes more sense when you take a closer look at where these Kikuyu elders are based. They are based in the Rift Valley. And it makes even more sense when you take careful note of something else these Kikuyu elders said. They said that Uhuru must honor the handshake that took place at the Afraha Stadium, I believe sometime in 2012. The handshake was between Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto, representing two communities in the Rift Valley. And so now, it should make perfect sense. There are people who call Rift Valley home, but they don't belong to the Kalenjin community. They belong to the Kikuyu community. Their great-grandparents were relocated there in the 60s. They have known no other home. And the other members of the House of Mumbi who have made huge investments in the Rift Valley. And they have to survive. And therefore, to survive, they have to make peace with the Kalenjin community. And politicians have made sure that the message on the ground is that that peace cannot survive unless the local Kikuyu community in the Rift Valley fully supports all the political initiatives and ambitions of the Kalenjin community. It's as simple as that. Now, of course, this is very unfair. Whatever you want to say about my beloved in-laws, the House of Mumbi, it is not fair. The Kenyan Constitution protects the right of any Kenyan to settle anywhere in the Republic of Kenya. The Constitution doesn't say that if those Kenyans are rude, or if those Kenyans are not good looking, or if those Kenyans have some other shortfalls, then they are not protected by this Bill of Rights in our Constitution. No, it doesn't say that. It says that any Kenyan can settle anywhere. But alas, that is the deal. And therefore, what do you expect from the Kikuyu elders from the Rift Valley? What do you expect them to do when they're told, hey, we need you to make a statement, saying the deputy president was betrayed, okay? So get organized, let's go, we are making a statement, which I believe is precisely what happened. But what would you expect them to do? To say no? Wataishi wapi? So, that is a correct and accurate portrayal of the situation here. But I want us to look at something else. What led to this particular statement coming out of the two community group of elders at this particular time? As we have always said on this channel, timing, timing in politics can tell you a lot. It's critical in any analysis you want to do of politics. Now, it would seem that the deputy president's camp, Team Tangatanga, have launched a brand new offensive against Team Keleweke and the president. And very important to note, they have launched it at a time when the environment in the Rift Valley is toxic. Oh yes, there are the floods that have hit many parts of the Rift Valley, leaving people homeless and even taking some casualties. And then there's also the issue of food. There is hunger. So what better time to politicize the masses than when the masses are facing challenges? What better time to incite the masses than when the masses have the challenges they're facing right now? Oh yes, this is what this is all about. And although I've said many times that politics is such that there's no right or wrong, there's only what you can get away with. Yes, I've said that several times. Despite that, in my view, there are lines which people should not cross. All politicians play dirty. It's how you survive in politics. But even then, I believe there are just some lines that you should apply emergency brakes and never cross. We are facing a national crisis. We have the issue of the virus, and all the other consequences of this virus thing. And then we're still desperately trying to recover from the locust invasion. Indeed, we have not even fully gauged the impact the locusts will have on our food supply going forward. And then, when all this is in play, the floods have come in and ravaged, washed away crops, left people homeless. Surely, you can put your politics on hold, and join forces with everybody else, and let us sort out our immediate emergencies, and then we can resume politics later. But when instead some politicians see this as an opportunity of getting ahead, I don't know what word to use. That is just so tragic and completely unacceptable. And that is why I found this particular development, this headline, very disturbing and very worrying, knowing what the situation on the ground is. Is it possible, please, just for a short while, to forget who betrayed who or who did not do what? And focus on what is before us. Rescue the millions of Kenyans who are going to bed hungry. Actively seek solutions before it is too late. It is possible, and this has happened in real life, it is possible for you to go somewhere and decide to start a fire, to burn down a structure or a house. And then what happens next is that very fire that you started consumes you. Oh yes, that is very plausible. And that's why we're told, don't play with fire. Now on to the global crisis. What everybody's talking about now are the rumors which are coming out of Tanzania. And I am totally amazed at how so many people have swallowed these rumors, hook, line and sinker, without stopping to think and without considering a few other factors. And again, we come to timing. The country called Ghana has recently come out of a lockdown. It has become the first African country to come out of lockdown mode. And many still don't realize that this is actually an amazing achievement by an African country, because they've done it by generating their own internal data and figures that has enabled them to project how the virus will continue to behave in their country. Because you just can't wake up in the morning one day and decide we're out of the lockdown. You have to have a reason. There has to be some logic behind it. So that tomorrow, if something goes wrong, you'll be able to say This is the data we're looking at. This is the data that enabled us to make that decision. You see, what is keeping the entire world on lockdown are the Bill Gates World Health Organization projections. The infamous predictive contagion model that predicted millions of deaths from the virus, hundreds of thousands of deaths from the virus. And most of the world is still using those figures, even though it is already very clear that those figures were very wrong, way off the mark, highly exaggerated. But still, you can't just dismiss them without coming up with your own alternative projections, which is what Ghana have done. Now, it is also very obvious that some people have not been happy at these developments in Ghana. How can they? How dare? Who do they think they are coming out of a lockdown? And we have already seen a backlash against Ghana. And admittedly, one that is easy to miss. Because the African Union, the AU, were recently faced with a decision to appoint somebody to spearhead the fight against the virus on the continent of Africa. Now, common sense tells you that to appoint such a person, you need to select a country that already has a track record or has done something significant against the virus. And of course, the obvious choice in this case would be Ghana. But what did the AU do instead? It appointed the Nigerian president, Muhammad Buhari. In other words, they looked for the country with the most serious lockdown issues and then appointed that country to spearhead the fight against the virus on the entire continent of Africa. Anyway, back to what we're discussing. So you notice this has happened to the AU. You also notice that President John Pombe Magufuli of Tanzania is attracting a lot of attention and people asking questions. They're saying these guys didn't go into a lockdown and they seem to be okay. They seem to have more or less the same figures as everybody else. People were beginning to question. And so, I'm talking about timing, when all that is unfolding, suddenly these rumors start coming out of Tanzania. Or they're hiding the figures, or 200 people are dying per day, etc., etc. Now, hold on a minute. Before we even analyze whether these rumors are true or not, let's take a closer look at all this. And let's start with the question, what is the difference between Kenya and Tanzania? Kenya, just like Tanzania, has not gone on a lockdown. No. All we have is a curfew. And I can bet you, between 7 p.m. in the evening and 5 a.m. in the morning, most Tanzanians, a vast majority, are at home with their families, just like the situation is in Kenya. So, would it make any scientific sense for the situation to be so different in Tanzania than it is in Kenya? No, of course not. But I will tell you the difference between Kenya and Tanzania. Tanzania has attracted attention, because the president seems not to have taken any drastic action against the virus. That is the perception, nothing to do with science. All President John Pombe Magufuli has done is to appear like he is not frightened, scared, alarmed, like the other African leaders. He is also saying things that contradict the perpetrators of this global crisis. And because of that, he has to be taught a lesson. That's what this is all about. And so the rumors have started. Now, I'm not going to force you to believe or not to believe the rumors. All I want to say is that if indeed what we're being told is happening in Tanzania is true, then Kenyans should be worried. Because the science tells us then the same should happen in Kenya. Because as we have pointed out, There's hardly any difference between the two countries. The difference is only in perception. More so that now the government of Kenya has decided to reopen restaurants. And so Kenya is now even more similar to Tanzania. Yeah? Think about it. Now, there was a very interesting interview yesterday where a specialist called Dr. Judy Mikovits was interviewed at length, and she gave some very shocking information about a respected doctor leading the fight against the virus in the United States, a doctor known as Dr. Anthony Fauci. She laid bare the character of the man, not based on rumors, not based on what she has heard, but based on her own experience and encounter with this man. This man who is now so influential, in the fight against the virus globally. Now, before we go any further, I appreciate the fact that the word integrity may be a boring word to some. Many of us may not fully understand what it means and how relevant it is to the global crisis we are facing, to our safety and saving lives. Allow me to tell you a brief story. Growing up, integrity was not only a boring word, I hated it. Because the colleagues of my father in the police force were all rich, and most of them were of a much lower rank than he was, while he continued driving his old, rattling, smoky car. Some of my friends in school, courtesy of their rich fathers who had no integrity, had cars much better than my dad's car. Their parents had purchased the vehicles for them, so that they could use them to go to the carnival on weekends. And sometimes I was given a lift, in these brand new cars, still smelling new. You know the way a new car smells? And I would just compare it to my dad's old car, where you could smell petrol sometimes. And I would get very mad. And I would tell myself that my father is not very clever. And to make matters worse, as I grew older, I realized that the way my dad operated, his life was often in danger. He would carry big guns in the car. He would travel to Mombasa on official duty, but would never spend the night in the hotel assigned to him. What he'd do is check in and then leave, go into another hotel and sign in as his eldest brother. The next day sleep in another hotel and sign in as his younger brother, never ever using his own name. Little did I know that decades later I would be taking similar security precautions. That's life. Anyway, at that time, I just looked at my dad and I said, "Oh, you're so slow. You're not smart. You don't know what you're doing. There's easy money here. Why not do the convenient thing? Do what everybody's doing. Get rich." I know you're a strict man. You can never buy me a car to go to carnival with. But at least change this smoking old thing. Buy a proper car befitting your very high rank in the police force. Well, to cut a very long story short, let me jump forward to a few decades later. I went somewhere where I needed some services. And in this place, integrity of a person was an issue. You had to get a letter from the chief or something like that, or from a pastor. And somebody noticed my last name. And they asked me, "Who is this guy?" And I responded, "Oh, my dad has passed on. You used to work with the police, blah, 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 blah. And their eyes lit up. You mean you're so-and-so, son? To cut a long story short, all the doors that may have been shut opened magically for me. And I've told a story before on this channel, about my visit to a certain hospital where my late mother never worked, because she was in the medical profession. But again, somebody noticed the name and called me from very far down the line and brought me in front and served me very quickly. Folks, integrity is more important than money. Integrity, your integrity, lives long after you're gone. Quick question. What would happen in the future if you came across the son of the late Chris Msando of the IEBC? How would you react? I think you get my drift. And it is for this reason I understand that word very well. And it's no longer boring to me as it used to be when I was young and foolish. Anyway, Dr. Mikovits, who used to work with Anthony Fauci, and I'll put a link to that video in the description area of this video. She paints the picture of the man as a fraudster, a man who has been involved in illegalities in the past. Now, with that kind of information, it begins to make sense why today, right across the globe, we are redefining immunology and the way diseases and indeed pandemics have been handled in the past. We have made up new rules, which don't make any scientific sense. Like one Dr. Mikovits pointed out about asymptomatic carriers. Those are people with the virus who don't display any symptoms. According to the doctor, the specialist, it makes zero sense to quarantine such individuals. Because, she asks, how can they pass on the virus if they're not showing any symptoms? They're not sneezing, they're not coughing. And we come back to the question everybody's asking. Why quarantine people who are not sick? It has never been done before in history. You will not find it anywhere, in any textbook on immunology. But that is what the World Health Organization has recommended. That is what we are doing right now as I speak. That is precisely what Dr. Anthony Fauci has been promoting and championing and pushing through. And of course, is so influential that if today he were to change his mind and tell the world to do something else, people would follow his lead. That's how influential he is. But he is a man without integrity. And so we know that that is highly unlikely. This latest revelation is yet another confirmation that the global crisis we're going through right now has nothing to do with science. The objective has nothing to do with science. There's another agenda. This should be very clear. There is obviously another agenda of taking away the rights of people. Keeping them locked up in their houses, locking them up in quarantine. And yet they are not sick. And since we know that birds of the same feather flock together, we can assume that the people Dr. Fauci is working with, all of them have no integrity, zero integrity. Bottom line, the entire world is in the hands of people who do not have any integrity. And indeed people who have been involved in illegalities, criminal acts in the past. God have mercy. Because if you have been involved in the activity of vaccinating large populations in Africa and Asia. And the results were that some people died. Some people are infected with the very disease you are trying to vaccinate against. Some women in Kenya became sterile. They can never give birth. If you're involved with such activities, isn't that seriously criminal? Indeed, the most serious crime on the face of the earth? Crimes against humanity? Oh yes, those are the people we're dealing with. Indeed, those are the people whom we have put our fate in the hands of. Some of them have even been involved in covering up diseases in their country, resulting in the deaths of many precious human lives that would have been saved if they had not covered up the real ailment. Those people would have gotten treatment. They'd still be with us today. That is what the Secretary General of the World Health Organization has been accused of. Birds of the same feather will always flock together. And if you give them enough power, what can they not do? For example, what will stop them? Rewriting entire textbooks written for centuries and decades on immunology and take actions that contradict all that human knowledge that has been accumulated and indeed tested by time, and introducing brand new things that have never ever been tested. Now I need to give you a heads up about a recent example that to me is very instructive. Our neighbors, not our immediate neighbors, but our neighbors just close by, a country called Rwanda, instituted lockdowns supervised by the military. Very strict. People are locked up in their houses. And you would expect that infections of the virus would go down. Actually, they've gone up. Rwanda has a population of only 10 million. And yet their cases are almost the same number as Kenya. What that means is that the percentage of infections in their population is much higher than that of Kenya or any other country in East Africa. Even if so far you have not been suspicious, you need to be suspicious about this selective presentation of information and leaving out very important information. If you have tested 2,000 people and 20% of them have the virus, then it is safe to assume that country, 20% of the population are infected. That is scientific. And indeed, this is the best way and most realistic way of gauging how serious the virus is in your country. But nobody is talking about those figures. Indeed, there was a video somebody sent me recently of a report by CNN, the news network that very many people on earth trust with their lives. And they produced this report. And obviously the main aim of that report was to show the big mistake the country called Sweden made by refusing to go on lockdown. And they gave the number of deaths so far in Sweden from the virus and compared them to the very few deaths in neighboring Norway. And so they concluded Sweden doesn't know what it's doing. Now, wait a minute. Why didn't they give us the population of Norway and the population of Sweden? I believe you can see those figures on your screens right now. Now look at those figures and you'll realize that the CNN report was rubbish, propaganda. A primary school kid in Kenya doing a report would have done a better job. And it's not that they can't do it. No. The issue is they definitely have an agenda. They're part of the agenda, the perpetrators behind this virus must promote at all costs. And this media house has been used a lot to spread fear right across the globe. Now, when I joined the journalism profession decades ago, I was told that the most important thing in the profession, something which cannot be replaced, is something called integrity. If those people consuming your information, for any reason, doubt your integrity, you're finished. Well, CNN is still very far from being finished. And as I speak, they continue generating reports and information similar to the one I've just pointed out. Information that doesn't make any sense to somebody who will only stop and think briefly. In other words, they continue to promote an agenda and many other reputable news outlets. It seems we live in a world where integrity is becoming increasingly extinct. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.